As much as I hope for good things to happen in Canadian politics, I also cheer on funny stuff happening. And today we have something truly funny to talk about. So, our favorite Liberal MP, Mark Gerretsen from Kingston in the Islands, spread obvious defamatory misinformation about Kat Kanada on Twitter. She works for the Counter Signal, that is Cian Bexty's outlet, and rather than just going after Mark online and saying that you're a liar, this is why nobody likes you, all this stuff, pointing out other times he's lied, the counter signal actually lawyered up and sued Mark Gerretsen. And you might think, well, what are you going to do? You're suing a politician. He's just going to ignore you. The Liberal Party's going to protect him. Maybe even the government ends up paying his legal bills. That didn't happen here. Probably because Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party have been taking so many losses recently. They just told Mark to give in rather than having this ongoing court battle end up embarrassing them more. So he's actually apologized. And the funny thing is that he at the same time he apologized, he then still levies his same stupid conservatives are Russian shills criticisms to like in Parliament, basically saying that we need to investigate conservative media because apparently we're full of people who are not actually working for the Russians, and he'll have to apologize if he accuses us. So here's Mark Gerretsen this morning. He said, I would like to sincerely apologize to Kat Kanada for my previous post in which I alleged that she is funded by the Russian government. And by the way, reminder everyone, go and follow Kat Kanada because this was hilarious and she does a pretty good job at keeping people up to date with little political happenings going on in Canada. One of the more, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe her account. Just a good account overall. And then, anyways, Mark keeps going and says, Canada is a democracy, and in the context of the debate over political issues or current affairs, things can sometimes get more heated than they should. I should not have made these statements regarding Kat. I will be personally donating $1,000 to the Loaves and Fishes Community Food Bank in Nanaimo, BC, a charity chosen by Kat. If others who shared my original tweet would like to donate the same, they can do it here. Now, obviously, this is not what Mark would have said on his own. This is effectively what the settlement was. Cian Bexty has come out and said that this was the settlement. He has to donate $1,000 to that food bank in Nanaimo, and he has to put up this exact text on his Twitter. Usually, I've heard in defamation cases that you can't delete it until like a whole year has gone by or whatever. So you can't just try to immediately memory hole what happened or what you did by posting it and then deleting it the next second saying, well, I technically did post it. But now, because this was bad, I know, wow, I didn't realize this. He had to pin it to the top of his Twitter. So that's good. That's a big win for Counter Signal right there. You can see that posted there. But now I want to get to the new video that he had just posted where he tries to go after the conservatives for not taking Russian disinformation seriously enough. A second after he had to apologize for spreading disinformation about Russian agents.
Mr. Speaker, earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Justice revealed that Russia is funneling money to conservative media figures to push a far-right propaganda. This is a clear threat to our democracy and Canada's national security. And yet, the leader of the Conservative Party is directing his MPs to block the Public Safety Committee's study on this real issue. Can the Prime Minister tell this House what our government is doing to protect Canadians from this very real threat of foreign interference?
Before we cough in the middle of my video, but before we get over to Trudeau here, I just want to say, there's absolutely no serious connection to Canada in the story he is talking about. If you don't know, there was a media organization set up in the United States called Tenant Media, in which Lauren Chen, who I guess is Canadian, but she lives in the US now. I believe she's a US citizen who set up the company in the US. She was taking money from people from Russia Today, Russia's state-owned, like state-owned broadcaster. It's basically like Russian CBC, except instead of cheering on progressivism, they cheer on like invading Ukraine or whatever. And so she took a bunch of money from them. Bad. But then what she did is just started giving other hosts money and pretending that it didn't come from the Russians. And so people like Lauren Southern, who is Canadian, lives in Canada, and makes videos on Canada for Tenant, She was just doing generic conservative style Canadian content. Like Lauren Southern's approach to issues or not, she was just doing what she would have normally done, being paid from whatever source. She was just making videos. And the reason why Mark Gerretsen tried to smear Kat Kanada, Katrina, is because she went on Lauren Southern's show like once or twice to provide some comments on some specific issues that she was like knowledgeable on, or that they wanted her perspective on. So Kat didn't know that Lauren Chen had gotten money from the Russians and was paying Lauren Southern. Lauren Southern didn't even know where the money was coming from, but this was enough to pretend that the entire conservative independent media apparatus is full of Russian agents. And that's exactly what he's saying here. And when he's complaining, well, the conservatives are blocking our motion in committee to study this issue. And it's like, okay, no, it's not a serious issue to study. It is a fishing expedition because one lady working for an American organization being funded by some shady Russian sources did something wrong that now, for some reason, every single Canadian independent creator who you don't like can be hauled in front of committee and asked questions and had their, finances audited and all that stuff. That's not right, but let's hear what Justin Trudeau has to say about this. By the way, I will mention that I heard a lot of the heckling had to do with the lawsuit that Mark Gerretsen had gotten him in, which is funny that he then posts this right before he apologizes, since he did have to apologize for the thing that they're heckling him about.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for Kingston and the Islands for his advocacy on this unbelievably important issue. It's extremely alarming that Russia is pushing its propaganda in our democracy, but even more appalling that they are using far-right Canadian conservative influencers to divide Canadians.
No. He is using, okay, one, I wouldn't call Lauren Southern far right. She's kind of all over the place on a lot of issues. Like, more libertarian, I guess, is what I'd call Lauren Southern. Like, she's kind of like an anti-interventionist type person, but you get tons of those on the left too. But like him saying, oh, they're using Canadian conservatives with an S on the end. No. They used one. There was one Canadian conservative who was involved in tenant media making news about Canada. That is literally the entire story. There is no there.
Yes, we must all stand against this. I call on all parties, including the Conservative Party of Canada, to stand up and investigate these allegations and follow up on it. Let it get through committee.
Again, what are we investigating? What are we actually investigating here? There's nothing to investigate. The DOJ, the Department of Justice in the US, are already investigating the issue in their own country because that's where it actually took place. And now Justin Trudeau is like, well, I want to be involved too because I need to blame other things other than my own crushing ignorance for my unpopularity. So it must be the Russians are coming after me. Everyone would actually like Justin Trudeau unless Katrina went on Lauren Southern's show. No. Anyways, that should be it for me today. It's a good day that Mark Gerretsen has to apologize. I'll link his apology tweet in the description of this video below. If you have X, go on there. I encourage you to quote tweet it and laugh at him. Laugh at him in the comments. Do all that stuff because I think he deserves it. I think he rightfully deserves it. I believe that the great thing about what Kat Kanada and Cian Bexty, the owner of Countersignal, did is I think they required him to keep replies and comments open on his apology, which is quite hilarious because he is pretty infamous for being one of those people who just completely locks down his replies so that nobody can directly disagree with him. So if you guys also want to support the show, I have my Give, Send, Go linked in the comments below. Pinned to the top of the comments as well as in the description of this video. It's cost us more than $32,000 fighting back against an actual frivolous defamation case from a Chinese billionaire developer who in 2.5 years hasn't even filed evidence but keeps trying to push forward on the case despite the fact his evidence was literally his LinkedIn profile, his company website, putting his libel notice in there, and then the original article that we had written about him. So nothing. Basically, him just saying we defamed him was added in as evidence, and then his website saying he's such a great person and like a gentleman and a scholar. So, anyways, if you want to contribute to that, really helps us out. And if you want to sign up on my website, WyattClaypool.com, that's also in the description of this video if you want to sign up onto the campaign organizing list. So if there's ever an interesting nomination race in your area or election, I can reach out to people in those areas and contact you, let you know, what I would probably be doing in that race, who I know, who I would endorse, all that sort of good thing. Anyways, see you guys around.